Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Edge Sports Network. We got our summer series continuing here on the site today with Geraud Sanders, Air Force wide receiver, just finished up his career there. Geraud, thanks so much for joining us on site today.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you. I want to start here, going back to your high school days. Let's just start basic. I mean, how prepared did you feel going into college football, Division One at Air Force? How did high school kind of get you ready for that?
High school was big for me in my development.
Mm-hmm.
I started my career at Frisco High School, which is a local school by where I live. But then I decided, going to my junior year, me and my friend were looking for a new place to play, a place where I could, start getting some Division One offers.
Mm-hmm.
And we said we would decide to go to Bishop Dunn Catholic School, which is downtown Dallas.
Mm-hmm.
So I was driving 53 miles one way to go to school.
Wow.
Through downtown, through traffic and all that. So, when I got there, Dunn was a big powerhouse for Division I athletes. They had multiple Under All-Americans on one team,
Mm-hmm.
multiple guys with 20-plus offers that you would go against every day. These going against these guys every day that, had all these big-time offers and big-time players, it got me ready for college faster than, some other schools because, most other schools, these kids, with the big division offers, there are usually a couple on their team that have these offers. But when our team had 20 out of 22 players that started to go D1,
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get sped up a little bit of what the pace is like, and you got to bring your A game every day because the guy you're going against is just as good as you are, if not better.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me a lot to get ready for college, and helped me propel myself with a good first step, good showing when I first got on campus.
And I mean, being from Texas, Texas is known for football, high school, college, NFL, you name it. So I know clearly it prepared you very well, but what is the football culture like in Texas? I mean, growing up, I would assume you're just kind of surrounded by football, but how was that?
It was pretty cool, to be able to, every time you played, you knew that, everyone that cared about that team was going to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Just going back and watching, Allen, for example, and Kyler Murray was there, which is
Mm-hmm.
down the street from me, that was pretty much a college. They were having 60,000 people at their games,
Wow.
in high school. So it's like, knowing that everyone in the community is behind you and everyone's watching you and, everyone's rooting for you, pushing you to, do better for yourself, not for other people, but, you don't want to let nobody down either.
Yeah.
But, everyone's watching, so it gives you the chance to kind of have a little spotlight and, show people what you can do. And I think it's good for, just good experience for people who might not get the chance to also play Division One sports or D2 or D3, whatever it might be, to enjoy that time too. It's an experience that I say is different from other states, and
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very very great experience that I had coming up.
And you said 60,000 for a high school game?
Yes, I remember I was at the Allen State Championship, Kyler Murray's senior year, and it was 60,000 plus people there easily.
Oh. Yeah, see, we don't. We're based out of Massachusetts. We don't have that for high school games. I'd say it's like you get like 500 kids max, so you're pretty happy with that turnout right there. But
Right.
wow, that is 60,000. Oh my God, that's more than some NFL games, I'd say. I mean, I don't see 60,000 people. I know I don't see 60,000 people at a Dolphins game. I can tell you that. But
Right.
I know, your family has also been a big influence on you. Your dad and a couple of your uncles actually played in the NFL. So, I mean, how big has that influence been on you? How big has their impact kind of been, just kind of developing you growing up?
Oh, it was huge. Having those guys in my life, my dad and my uncles that, played for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
They were always to make sure I was prepared for whatever challenge I might see in football, where it's,
Mm-hmm.
the skill set or it's a mindset thing as well. Because, some people, you can be skilled, but you also have the mindset. You have to have the mindset to, go out there and do what, this vision that you might have for yourself to
Mm-hmm.
accomplish that. But the main thing that they were also preaching to me was to go get your education because football short term and you never know
Mm-hmm.
when it's going to end. So that's kind of why I was led towards Air Force Academy because I could go play at Division One schools in the area or wherever it might have been, but I didn't think the education was as strong as the academy. And
Mm-hmm.
it's still Division One. Mountain West is a very strong conference. Um, they just set me up for success long term, and but they also knew what I needed in the short term to be successful in the field as well. So that was a good support system I had in my back pocket.
For sure. And, you mentioned the great academics at the Air Force Academy. The Air Force Academy, or any academy, is a unique college path. There's no doubt about it. I mean, because you got the academics, then the military side of things, and in your case, you have football on top of that. So what kind of drew you to going to an academy? Because obviously it's not a path everyone takes. I mean, did you kind of have any interest in the military growing up, or was it something that you just kind of found throughout your life? I mean, yeah.
The military was never even a fifth thought in my mind. In high school or growing up, no one in my family is in the military. And, when I remember when Air Force offered me, it was kind of more like I don't really know what this is. Like, thank you, I appreciate the offer, but like, there's no chance I'm going there. I had some. I was going to Northwestern at first, university play. They ended up overcommitting on receivers and then telling me that they didn't have a spot for me anymore. So when that happened, I was kind of back to the basics with some smaller D1 schools like Louisiana Tech, where my dad went. UNT and the service academies and UTSA, some of these other schools. I just thought that I could get the same level of football at the Air Force Academy, but have one of the highest educations. And one thing that was always pitched by the academy is that you're set up for life. And that was something that spoke to me because I do have goals that I want to accomplish outside of football, and I felt like that'd be the best avenue for me to get that done. So that's what led me to the academy. Like I said, it was never I want to join the military, I want to be a pilot or anything like that. But like once I got there, I knew that it was the best fit for me.
I mean, you certainly fit well there, and again, it's just such a unique kind of college path. A handful of schools in the country, the academies obviously, have this kind of blending of military, school, and athletics. And I know going into the academy here, you didn't see any action in 2016. You come out for the 2017 season. You had 194 yards, 3 touchdowns on the year. That's your first season of college action. I want to get into, the military side of things, the academics a little bit down in the interview here, but just starting off football-wise, I mean, first season of college football, how was that for you?
It was a big adjustment for sure. First game had 2 touchdowns, and that was just my first game I played since high school. So I was pumped about that. And then the next game we head up to Ann Arbor to play Michigan, the big house, and they're ranked. I think it was number 8 at the time. So, my second career game is against Michigan. Playing Devin Bush and all these guys who went first round, and I'm 195, 200 pounds at the time. Like in all honesty, I was not ready to hold my own. So I realized that this was not high school anymore, and that I had to start developing my body and start becoming a full package receiver. After that game, I said, "This is not a joke anymore." So that season was great. Got to learn a lot of things. Had to learn from guys who were older than me, and helped me get my foot, kind of in the door. And and that was pretty much that. We ended up going 5-7 that year, but that was more so of a sit back and learning year and trying to help where I can, and just trying to make a name for myself.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned sit back, learn, and you did just that in your first season of action. I mean, I think a big thing with college athletes is you just always want to see progression over each year that you play. And you saw just that. From 2017 to 2018, you got better. And then this last season in 2019, you had your best year of college football. 746 yards, 7 touchdowns on 30 receptions. You actually led the entire country in yards per reception with 24.9 yards per catch there. So I want to ask you, I mean, what did you do in the offseason prior to your senior year to really make sure that you ended your career on a high note?
Absolutely. So, um, the first thing I did was I had to step up my training.
Hmm.
I was training at Kroll Fitness, which is out here in Richardson, Texas, up the street from where I live. One of my teammates, actually, Zane Lewis, came out and he had heard about it. He came out with me for the 3 week summer period. We had time to be at home.
Hmm.
So me and Zane were training together every day. Zane just signed with the Cardinals to play DB. So, me and him just going at it every day and,
Hmm.
being able to take those steps forward together was big for that growth. Also, the main thing for me was understanding that, practice was big for me.
Hmm.
When you kind of get to a certain level, some people start slacking off of, small things, the weight room, whatever it might be, rehab, practice. I decided I was going to take all that stuff seriously,
Hmm.
like every day, no matter what day it was, what we were doing. I felt like if it was going to help me get better, I was going to take it seriously. And I think that was one of the biggest jumps that I had one of my senior year was, practicing every day. I was the only receiver in the room who had played. So I had to lead these guys and show them, like,
Hmm.
by example, what the tone we're going to set. Because, going 5-7, 2 years in a row, that was not going to happen on my watch, my senior year. So,
Hmm.
you know, just taking it like that, that was big for myself. And I think telling myself, the work I did with the quarterbacks all summer paid off as well, too. And I think another big thing that I decided to do, or we decided to do, was I just didn't work with DJ, starting quarterback. I
Hmm.
worked with all three quarterbacks that I knew had a chance to play from first, second, or third string. I'd work with them just as much because you never know what could happen.
Hmm.
Um, so I developed that camaraderie with those guys to be able to still strive at a high level as like I would with DJ. So that was big in that aspect. For that because Mike and Isaiah they both came in sometimes when DJ was hurt or whatever it might have been,
Hmm.
and we didn't miss a beat in my opinion.
You guys improved. You improved. I know you had a game against New Mexico. You had 156 yards and two touchdowns. Just you were in the zone. You were locked in. Can you walk us through that game? I mean, was it something where you just felt good prior to the game, or once you got out there, you kind of just saw that the defense had no read on you? I mean, just walk us through that game. How did you put up those numbers?
That game was we came out and we felt that we had an advantage
Hmm.
down the field. Usually we run the ball, which is everyone knows that, but me and Ben had been hot the week before too. A couple weeks before.
Hmm.
So second play of the game was a post to me over the middle. And I know, like, once the way we kind of work is when we start hitting the passes, coach, he trusts us. We're going to keep going. So
Hmm.
I caught the one over the middle, the first one, and I knew from there that, one, the defense that they were in was not going to suffice to stop me and Ben.
Hmm.
Um, just from what we had seen on film and what we had seen in that first drive. DJ was on fire. The old lineman was putting together, one of the best blocking games that I've seen in a while.
Hmm.
So DJ had a lot of time, and me and Ben were getting open downfield, and I think it had a lot to do with the O line and the quarterback. Um, and, they just DJ was finding us, so that was big for us that game.
I mean, yeah, those were video game numbers right there. 156 yards, two touchdowns. And I know one thing that I'm sure everyone wants to know about, coming from a guy who played at an academy, is those Army Navy games where you guys play, Army Navy, those other academies. You had the chance to play in, a handful of those games. What is the atmosphere like for those games? I know those rivalries are fierce. I actually spoke to your former teammate now, Jake Conkey, yesterday, your guys'
Okay.
kicker, about those games a little bit, and how he mentioned how, it's a brotherhood at the end of the day. You guys are all kind of in the same battle with the military and stuff. You guys are there for one another off the field, but once you get on the field, different story. Can you just talk a little bit about the atmosphere and those rivalries?
Oh, no question. I definitely 100% agree with what Jake said, but
Mm-hmm.
those games are unbelievable. If I could go back and play in one more, I would love to. But the atmosphere is going crazy. There's a lot of generals there. You look up on the stadium rooftop.
Mm-hmm.
You might, depending on who's there, you might see snipers up there because there's a lot of high-ranking people there.
Yeah.
And then all these military people, they're here to watch you play. So and it's not just I want to win this game for my team.
Mm-hmm.
I won the game for my school. You got to think about the whole entire Air Force. People that are in Afghanistan and in Korea or wherever they might be at the Air Force, they're, no matter what time it is where they're at, they're tuned in to watch your game. That's how much they care about, the Army versus
Mm-hmm.
Air Force game or whoever might be playing, branch. So it's another different sense to know that these people that you don't know or might never meet in a different country or whatever are rooting for you from thousands of miles away. It's pretty cool. So you don't want to let them down in that aspect.
Mm-hmm.
But those games are crazy. Every time you go at it, it's a close game. And no matter what your record is that year, you can't take the Service Academy game lightly because both teams, you won't get their best game.
Mm-hmm.
And like Jake said, after the game, it's all love from each other and it's brotherhood and whatnot. But during the game, it's all out war, and that's how we wanted to be. Going back and forth, and then at the end of the game, you shake hands and let them know I'll see you down the line, and thanks for what you're doing, and it's a respect that way as well.
Oh, no doubt about it. And I think that's something that you brought up that a lot of people might not realize is that the whole, like each military branch is tuned into that game. And you're not only really playing for the school, for the community, but also for your branch of the military. So I think that's a real interesting point. I mean, you just had a really good career at Air Force. Before we dive into some military things here, I gotta ask you, I know your nickname is G Money. I mean, where did that come from? There's got to be a backstory behind that.
Right. The thing is, I don't know. One of my Little League baseball coaches, his name's Coach Kenny Foster.
Mm-hmm.
He just called me G Money, and I think it started in baseball. At a young age, I was pretty good at baseball at a young age, and I guess whenever people were on base, I was gonna bring you in because I used to bat for a hole.
There you go.
Clean up hitters. So I guess they just I guess I was reliable, so they just started calling me G Money. And then that just stuck, honestly. Other than that, I don't know. I think that's where it came from, but other than that, there's really no correlation. So it's really just random other than that, pretty much.
I mean, it's got a nice ring to it. You throw money on the end of anything, and I mean that's gonna stick.
No,
That's gonna
no
stick.
doubt.
I know going to the military stuff now here. I mean, what is it like just balancing school, football, and military duties? I mean, if you're not a college athlete, balancing school in itself is pretty tough. It's a different workload. Then you got to throw military duties on top of that, and that's extremely tough. In your situation, you throw football on top of that. How did you balance all three of those things?
The number one thing for me was having a daily routine, daily schedule that you don't deviate from unless there's a void in that spot to where you had to do something. And if there is a void, you probably replacing it with something else that you need to get done to get ahead. So, just time management was number one for me. Kind of before the week started, every Sunday I would lay out what I needed to do. Football and class times were already slotted. In military, you kind of had to go by ear, but you kind of had an idea what you had to do each day. So I would just kind of go down the list, and I'd have a planner. In high school, I was not organized whatsoever. So when I got to college, it took me probably a couple of months in the first semester of my freshman year to realize I needed to come with some organization system because this was no joke. So once I got that, that's when I started, taking off again and striving for excellence, in all three aspects, because I had this calendar that I laid out and would go over every day to make sure I wasn't missing anything, to make sure I was covering all my bases. And, yeah, it did come with some late nights, some all-nighters, no question, staying up all night and then having to go to practice the next day with no excuses, that did come with it. But at the end of the day, you can't play without your schoolwork being done first. And that's just not a saying. You actually have to have a certain GPA to play. So, you have to make sure you get this GPA and you have to fill your military duties, and then, you still have expectations out of football. So it's a lot to handle, but, the guys at the academy, if you decide to go there, you're cut for that. And, it's nothing that you can't handle. And, it's all about time management and your priorities.
Definitely a sacrifice too, and I mean, it's going to be a sacrifice if you want to put yourself in a good position coming out of the academy, and you've done just that. And you're in a really, really unique situation here. Something that I don't know if there's anyone else in the country in this spot. I mean, you have the chance to go and train to be a fighter pilot, and then you're also in a pretty good spot to eventually be in the NFL here. I mean, as we mentioned earlier, led the country in yards per reception, and you're coming off a great year. I mean, what's kind of the decision process for you, like, in this spot that you're in right now? I mean, I really don't know if any guy is deciding between NFL and fighter pilot. I don't know if that's ever really happened. I don't know when the last time that's happened. That's a very unique spot. So how are you kind of trying to make this decision?
I'm just thinking long term.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking, what will be best for me and best for my family down the road. I want to do both, and I have aspirations to do both. But it's more so talking to my family, seeing what's best for me at the time. Both options are pretty solid in my opinion. So it's more so just seeing what's the best fit for me and, going from there. But that's about it pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, those are two very good jobs right there. I think most people would be pretty satisfied with either one of those. So I'd say you're in a pretty good spot. And, going up to the option of playing in the NFL with the pro day, I mean, how was that experience? Like, all eyes kind of on you. You're trying to prove yourself to NFL teams, NFL scouts. What's that kind of like? Are you nervous for that? Do you just kind of feel like, hey, it's football, it's the game I've grown up playing? How was that experience?
Pro day was probably one of the coolest things I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
I think we had 13 NFL teams there, knowing they're there for you and, the other guys you're doing it with. And, you find it as a challenge. Any competitor, you want to go out there and, compete. And you're competing against thousands of other guys across the country now, to prove yourself. So I saw it as an advantage, the opportunity to go out there and, show teams what I could do and, just market myself. At the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. And, that people think they're like, what do you mean by that? Well, like if you can't run a 4.3, then like you are not going to ever run a 4.3.
Mm-hmm.
So, just going out there and being the best you, when you do that, then you're not setting yourself up for failure or for disappointment. You gave it your all and you did your best. And, at the end of the day, you can just say, I gave my all. And that's kind of how I approached it. And that's how I kind of start approaching different things. And that's what worked out for me.
Great outlook on that. Those pro days are kind of the first taste that you really have of the NFL, your first kind of interaction with those NFL teams. So I'm sure it's a little bit nerve-wracking, but at the same time, you kind of keep that mindset of, let me just go be me. Let me just go be the player that I am. That's really what it's all about right there. And I know to wrap up here, we like to always finish on two questions. The first one, you got to have a little bit of fun with it. And then the second one, you might have to think about a little bit. Might be tough. I don't know. But the first one here, if you could catch a touchdown from any quarterback, past or present, they can be dead or alive, who would that quarterback be?
Oh, let me see. Let me think for a second. Honestly, I'd have to catch a touchdown from Tom Brady.
Thank you. There we go.
No question. I mean, he's a different level. He's just a winner.
Yep.
And, just 6 Super Bowls is unbeatable. Russell Wilson's up there too for me.
Mm-hmm.
No question.
Good answers.
Yeah.
Good answers right
Probably
there.
about it.
Good answers. Obviously, we're based out of Massachusetts up here, so Tom Brady will always hold a spot near and dear to my heart. We've had some guys, I've interviewed some defensive guys who's one quarterback they could sack. Usually the answer is Tom Brady. So there's definitely some clash. Like, everyone wants to, catch a ball from Tom Brady, do something with Tom Brady on offense. Every defensive guy wants to sack him, absolutely destroy him. So it's definitely interesting. I might say I'm kind of side with the defensive guys now that he's in Tampa Bay. So I don't know, but it's going to be hard to see him in that new uniform this year, that's for sure. But Tom Brady, solid option. That'd be a great guy to catch a touchdown from, no doubt about it. But going on to this last question here. I mean, the Air Force Academy, it trains guys in just a different way than normal colleges do. It's really, I find that guys coming out of these academies are much more ready for anything that life throws at them because you get that military aspect of things. So coming out of the Air Force Academy here, I mean, you're really starting the rest of your life, whether that be in the NFL, the military, really the world's at your fingertips right now. If you could, I mean, I'm sure you took a ton of things out of the Air Force Academy. I'm sure there was a ton of things. But what did you kind of value most out of the Air Force Academy? What has it taught you the most, just for values of your life? And what's really going to stick with you for the rest of your life?
Absolutely. For me, that's an easy answer. And it's, when I first got there, someone told me the reason why you came here is not the reason you're going to stay.
Mm-hmm.
And, when you first get there, you're like, all right, like, I don't even know what that means, but I'm here to play football. Mm-hmm. And that's not the reason why I stayed at the academy. The reason why I stayed at the academy was, all these relationships you make, these brotherhoods and, bonds and sisterhoods, people that you meet at the academy that give you different aspects of life and they feed into you in different ways, to where you feel like, I don't want to leave this type of group of people that I've already met. And you also kind of learn that you can't do this alone, Some of the classes you take at the academy are very, very challenging. And, you might need to ask help from somebody who you might not talk to on a, daily basis if you're an athlete, not because they're not good people. It's just we usually wouldn't cross paths. So for me to be able to meet different people that just do different things, help me in different ways, I help them where I can and whatnot, back and forth. The camaraderie and the brotherhood and the building piece of that is just unbelievable. And I think that's my key takeaway and the answer to that question.
I'm sure it's safe to say that you've built some relationships there that will last for your lifetime, I'm guessing?
Oh, no question.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no question.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one unique thing about the academies, when I think of brotherhood, when I think of the word brotherhood, I think of two things. I think of football and the military. And you got the opportunity to kind of blend those two things. So I think that's definitely where that stems from. And that is where those relationships come from. But congrats on a great career at the Air Force Academy. I mean, congrats on a great senior season as well. Best of luck to you, whether you go the NFL, whether you go the military. I mean, I'm sure you're going to make your family proud, the Air Force Academy proud. You're certainly in a great position right now. Great time in your life, just coming out of college, ready to really go wherever you may please. So, Geraud Sanders, thanks so much for joining us here on Edge Sports Network. It was absolutely great to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for the conversation. I appreciate it.
No problem at all. We're going to put Geraud's Twitter down below so you guys can follow him, follow his career in the NFL or his military career, whatever he may choose there. And we'll also put a link down to Air Force, their football page. You guys can follow for news and updates. But guys, thanks so much for joining us here on Edge Sports Network. It was great to have you guys on once again. As always, we'll see you guys next time.